Come on. Okay, there we've got ourselves a clock. Let's see if things change over here. There we go. Nice. All right. Let's see. I'm going to get that screen over there and this screen over here. Okay. I think that's most of the muttering out of the way. Oh, hang on. I got to fix that. There we go. All right. And there we go. Let's see. All right. Welcome to the show. It's a pretty dreary gray morning here in my neck of the woods. Just going to scooch my chair. It is not raining, but it will probably sprinkle on and off all day, and it is sort of dark, so I'm sort of dark and spooky in here, and I just realized I left the door to the... that'll be fine. Left the door to the den open. Let's see here. Excuse me. Good morning from San Antonio. Good morning from Winnipeg. Calgary. Let me see here. Frankie Lee Bailey was watching the Patreon live show yesterday from the Camaros, and today joining via under Mom's kitchen sink while doing plumbing. So that's fun. You can't do that with a regular TV. You can't stick your TV underneath the sink or in your car. No. Hello from Ludwigshafen, Germany. Kind of sounded like Germany. Sunny Tuscany. Another one from Germany. Another one from Germany. Wet and dreary Atlanta, much like here. Probably warmer, though. Good morning from Northern Virginia, Flint, Michigan, New Zealand. It's 3 a.m. there. Nova Scotia, North Dakota, Norwich, UK. Unless it's spelled unless it's pronounced Norwich, which I'm not sure. Phoenix. Let me see here. What else have we got? Hudson, Illinois, South Florida. Greetings from the Wolf Lair. Ooh. Burning through Zombicide Darkside minis today. Next up, Nemesis minis. That sounds like fun. Belgium, Pittsburgh. Afternoon from the UK. Good morning from Brandon, MB. Manitoba? No, I'm not sure what MB stands for. Sorry. It's sitting at a 181 degree Fahrenheit sauna. That's warm. It's going to mess up your phone. I don't know. Poland, Sweden, Frankfurt, Germany, Scotland, Boston, France, Kansas City, Indiana, Cornwall, Belfast, nice and sunny Bavaria. I want a Bavarian cream donut. That's what I want right now. Denver, Belgium, North Yorkshire, Toronto, Stockholm, Adelaide, Slovenia, Winston-Salem. Morning from Geneva, Berlin, Barcelona. Morning from the DC Burbs. It's suburbs, short for suburbs. Tuning in from Shenzhen and Virginia Beach, and again from Germany. First time catching you live. Absolutely love the show. Well, great. I'm glad to hear it. Good morning from mid-Michigan, Maryland. It's like I said, it's definitely fall here. We've definitely got that going on. The leaves are all kind of starting to change color and coming off of the trees and making a mess, as they do. And it's been cold, well, cool. It's not cold yet. Give it time. VJ Morph is checking in on the couch after an 11-hour gig at the club today. That's a long gig. I'm glad that you're done with that for the day. Greetings from post Disney World. I will only ever go there again if it's under 80 degrees Fahrenheit. You're gonna have to go in the winter, I think, and even then, hard to say. I went to Disney World in Florida when I was in the 7th grade with my family, and it was fine. I kind of want to go back and see the crazy Star Wars crap, although it's not ready in the Florida one yet, I guess. I don't know. But I'm interested in checking that out eventually. It sounds interesting. Let me see. Good evening from Tokyo. Oh, neat. Norwich and Maidstone in Kent. Springfield, Pennsylvania. Milwaukee area, North Dakota. Cyber Anime Alien says, I've been painting Kroot. Painting more organic models is interesting after all that Tau armor. Absolutely. So Tau was my first army, and I painted them. The reason I picked them partially was because I liked the look. It was cool. But also I looked at them and I knew, I was like, these guys will paint up super quick. And all I did was I used a red oxide primer from the auto store, and I primed them all. And then I sprayed them from above with an orange spray paint that I got at the hobby store. And that was my highlight and my base coat, my prime all in one. And then I did some stuff and some wash, and then boom, done. But yeah, they were they were fast and easy to do, but they weren't as exciting and kind of interesting as once I started getting into doing some Kroot for that army. Then it was really kind of more interesting, and I liked that too. So I get that, definitely. Justin Jackson says, I'm so excited for fall. I purchased a leaf punch from Green Stuff World, and I can't wait to use it. So do you use a leaf punch on actual leaves? Leaves? I would think that they would break up over time and get all weird. Huh, I haven't looked into that. I mean, I've seen those leaf punches before, but I always thought that you used them on tinfoil or something else that was really very thin. Oh, God, man, doing it on tinfoil I would think would be such a pain because it would just curl up so quickly. Like when you're trying to stick it down and stuff, I would think it'd have to be thicker tinfoil maybe. Hello from Moonbase Alpha. Fun. Good morning from Door County, Wisconsin. Also probably going through all of the shenanigans here with all the leaves changing and stuff. People are probably hanging out in Door County. Door County is a very kind of tourist-oriented area because it's very beautiful. And so I'm sure there's a lot of people there checking out the fall colors. It's very nice. Let's see here. You, sir, are an idiot 08. Well, that's a good name. Thank you for helping me dive headfirst into the hobby. My favorite YouTube miniature hobbyist. Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. The Animaster says, I flew the Millennium Falcon but forgot my Dramamine. They should have that there on the Millennium Falcon because it's, you'd think, but yeah, definitely. Toronto, Florida. Good afternoon from the UK. Hello from Southeast UK. Normally don't get around to watching live, but love to catch up on your shows while I work in the week. Keep up the amazing content. Many thanks. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big reasons that I do like doing these live streams on YouTube versus doing them on Twitch, because it's just so much easier on my part, admittedly, to be able to have them automatically become episodes on the channel without having to re-upload and go through a whole bunch of shenanigans. And then people who couldn't make the show can still at least, turn it on and listen and whatever while they're working on stuff later on in the week or later on in the month or whatever. So yeah, it works out well. Looking for a DeLorean model from Back to the Future for a role-playing game. I don't know what scale is best, honestly. Depends. I guess it depends on what you're using for the rest of the scale in your role-playing game, really. Good morning from South Florida, painting orc boys and war bikes. That's probably a lot of green then, and a lot of dry brushing, which I enjoy. That's good. Luke says, I'm getting back into painting, waiting for my Games Workshop delivery. Nice. Justin says, that's what the website suggests, talking about those leaf punches. They say that you've got to treat the leaves to make them last. Yeah, I would think so, because otherwise they would crumble over time. But if you do treat them, then they would look like the texture would be right, I would think. Possibly even the color. You wouldn't have to paint them particularly. If you put them on last, I would still probably paint them myself, because I can always spot stuff that's not painted. Like if you try to put sand on your base and you want it to stay sand color, so you put it on there and you don't paint the sand and you just leave it sand color, it doesn't look right to me. I still want to then paint it sand color even though it's already sand. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. That's me. St. Louis. Inks on a coffee strainer for leaves, apparently. Oh, yeah, I can see that, too. Autumn makes me miss home. I live in the middle of downtown. I miss the trees and the fresh air. Yeah, autumn is a good time. I'm a fan. The downside is that then winter's coming, so there's that. Nikos is currently painting the Hellboy expansion, The Wild Hunt. Cool minis. I just got a package from Mantic Wednesday or Thursday. And I was like, the heck is this? And I remembered, I ordered something from Mantic. And I'm like, but this is here faster than I thought. And it's also in a much smaller box than I would have thought. So I'm like, that doesn't seem right. And it turns out I was right, that it wasn't what I'd ordered. It was actually a resin Hellboy, which I think was maybe some sort of stretch goal to the Hellboy Kickstarter when I backed that. So I think it was just why they sent one in resin and then there's also the other one in plastic. Maybe there's differences in detail potentially, but yeah. Brian Griffith says, your stream today is taking the tedium out of scrubbing wax off of Shapeway parts. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to remove some tedium if possible. Leaf Punch. Yep, green-stained, non-bleached coffee filters work very well. That's interesting. I've got non-bleached coffee filters right here. I mean, not right here. They're over there in the kitchen. Good morning, Tabletop Minions. How did the Stormtroopers go last night? Not bad. They're fine. I mean, they go together very quickly. The Stormtrooper models that for Star Wars Legion are very quick and easy to build, so it wasn't too bad at all. Yeah. Let's see. Are you still playing Kill Team? Any chance you will make video battle reports of them? Yes, and technically yes. Yes, I'm still playing Kill Team. I'm actually in the midst of a campaign right now with a friend of mine. As far as battle reports, they are still coming. I know you've been hearing that for a long time if you've been following the show for quite some time. But I have the room mostly set up. I've got the lighting now figured out. It's a small room, so some of the lighting I didn't want to put on light stands because it just takes up floor space. So I found these light stands that you attach to a wall, like up higher, and so I attached them to the wall. I had to find studs and get a stud finder, and it was a whole thing. But I did all that, and now the lights are up there. There's the lights in the ceiling. I've changed the bulbs to make them daylight balanced, so hopefully photography will work a little better, video, that kind of stuff. I do need to get... I want to put some banners up in that room on the... because the thing is that I'm going to be always holding the camera. So you'll always be seeing my opponent, and then as you watch the battle reports, it'll be as if you're playing from my point of view. So I'm not going to switch sides back and forth behind the table, because you don't normally do that too much in normal games. And I think it just makes it easier for you in your mind's eye to figure out where things are. If you switch back and forth on the table and switch from side to side and you're zoomed in a lot, when I watch battle reports, sometimes I'm like, I don't know where we are anymore. You're zoomed in to the backside of this building to show me these guys, but I don't know where they are in relation to everything else. And I kind of hate the top-down look in battle reports. So my idea is to always stay on one side of the table and me be filming so that you kind of get the idea of where everything is in relation to that. So on the opposite side of the table across from me, behind the opponent, I want to have some banners on the wall for two reasons. One, just to make it visually more interesting, and two, to help hopefully break up a little bit of the sound reflection, the echo in that room. I've put down a carpet that's kind of a shag carpet. That'll help also with sound reflection, and I'm going to try to put some of that audio foam stuff up behind me where you won't see it, but that'll also help to hopefully absorb some of that. We'll see. But yeah, it's in progress. My goal is to have at least a couple filmed before the end of the year, which means I need to do some test ones sort of soon. So potentially my friend Ben and I, who are in the midst of playing some Kill Team, we will probably try to do some stuff just to test, like that you probably won't ever see, but that'll come up soon in the next month, hopefully, and then we'll see. But yeah, that is a plan for before the end of the year, is to have at least a couple of battle reports, or at least one launched, and then start doing them more in 2020. Excuse me. Alrighty, let's see here. Hello from Santiago, Chile. Thinking on painting 1 million frogs for Hellboy. That's a lot of frogs. But yeah, that board game, the Hellboy board game, does come with a lot of frogs. Bram says building 45 cavalry, pistoliers, outriders, dark riders from a mishmash of Empire Bretonnian and Wood Elf Cav. Nice. Let's see here. Aries says, I understand what you're saying about sand. I just finished a 1/35th scale diorama set in Afghanistan, and the natural sand looked off. I know, there's something about, like, when you try to use a natural product and don't paint it, because you're like, well, I don't need to paint this little branch because it's wood colored. I don't, but it just doesn't look right. I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe surface texture, honestly. Greetings from the Netherlands. Glad to catch you live for the first time. Love your content. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you, Fishing Fish 9. Let's see here. What's your favorite GW game? Probably right now, Kill Team, I would say. Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, I would say definitely Kill Team at this point. That's the one I've probably done, like, recently. I've played the most. I've painted up the most warbands for it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 more warbands in the queue. So, yeah, definitely. Let's see here. VG Morph says bat reps are coming. That's a long time coming. It's you gotta wait for the good stuff. I don't know. Hey, look, it's Matthew Sears, and he says so many battle report excuses. True. Now, admittedly, that there was technical difficulties with the ones that we did, you and I. We did so. People who were like, well, why don't you ever do any bat reps? I will challenge you to go and look back in the channel and find out that I did a bat rep last year. I think it was 2018 in May, and it was a battle report with our friend, moderator Matt, and Sam was in it. He had a guest starring role. And we played some Wreckage. It's about 18 minutes long, and nobody has ever watched it. That's not true. Not nobody, but very few people have watched it. So, but I have done a bat rep. And then there was a second one that was filmed, and then it never got put out. The audio was goofed up on both of them, and it took a long time to get the audio fixed on the short one, and the second one was at least twice as long. And so, yeah, that's just my own... it's an excuse, I'm not going to lie, but there was an audio problem. So now, going forward, I'll know how to fix that, and that'll be great, hopefully. One of the big things I think that's important for me to do is battle reports. I kind of talked a little bit just a couple seconds ago about how I want to keep the camera in a certain spot, like where I'm holding it, but you're always basically playing as me so that you can always keep track of like where everything is. I think that's important. When you spin around the table a lot, then I get lost if I'm watching a battle report. Secondly, I don't like it when battle reports, you can only hear the person holding the camera and you can't hear the opponent. So if you do go and ever watch the one that I did with Matt, we were both wearing lapel mics, wireless lapel mics. So getting that technologically designed and set up is also a little bit of a pain. But I think it's important because I hate it when I'm watching a battle report and there's the opponent is talking over here like this, and I can't hear them. And I can only hear the person who's holding the camera near their head, and that drives me a little nuts. So, seeing the stuff in your background, I think we need a tour. And good morning from Boston, says Steve Carey. Well, this is Nick Raimondo. He's the co-host of the show. And this is my wife and I. This is our liquor cabinet. And I think that's a candle. These orange things that are hanging down here are braids on a tiny little Viking helmet made for cats, which we've put on Diesel in the past, our biggest cat. He's not a big fan of it. I don't know what that is. I think it's maybe a bottle of bitters. I don't know. Anyway, there's just a bunch of stuff back there. So yeah, that's the liquor cabinet. That's my wife's cello case, whose name is Nick Raimondo, and that's where we're at. So, tiny Viking helmet right there. This, I think, is actually a flask that is made in the shape of a Nintendo cartridge, like an original NES cartridge that a friend of mine gave me. So I can, there's a little notch that's in the Nintendo cartridge. You pull that out, and that's the stopper, and you put booze in it. It's kind of awesome. Let's see here. Oops. Matthew Sears says that more people ask for bat reps than watch bat reps. Well, yeah, maybe. Where are we at? Okay, I'm trying to catch up. There's a lot of chat going on, which is nice. You should try this hip technology called Google Glass for your battle reports. No, I think that sounds terrible. I mean, I would love some sort of actually good working AR thing. That'd be kind of neat, but yeah. Let's see here. Will of the Way says, hey there, Adam. Been a while since I could catch an Every Other Sunday show. Glad I could today. Well, I'm glad you could do as well. Ray asks, any more Tales of the Tabletop Minions episodes? Yes, there's one that I've shot that I'm very slowly editing. I actually talked to Touch about it, I think, yesterday in the Patreon chat. The Uncle Adam's Irregulars monthly chat, and I'm just slowly editing it, and I kind of want to get it done in time for Halloween, but that might be too big of a thing. It's a short one. It's like a minute and a half, maybe less, but still, there's a lot to it. But yeah, I did film it, and then I've got an idea for at least a couple more actually. One's going to have Sam in it, so that'll be fun. Paul says, built my beast grave last night. Great looking minis. Well, I like the goat people way more than I like the elf people, but that's just me normally. Let's see here. Recently got into Underworld due to your content. It'll be my first entry into miniature gaming after being a longtime RPG player. Thanks for the introduction to it, Uncle Adam. Well, absolutely, yeah. That's why they built it. I'm pretty sure. I think that Underworld was built for two reasons. Number one is it's a great gateway game to get people into the hobby. Number two, it's also, I think when they built it, it was a competitive. They were trying to make something to kind of go up against X-Wing to some degree, but yet still they couldn't pre-paint it and all that jazz and everything because it's kind of a pain in the butt. And it's also not what they're about. When you sell paints, you don't want to sell pre-painted miniatures. It just doesn't seem to be the case. Let's see here. Troy G says, I received my new Pachow shirt Friday, and it's great. Oh, cool. Speaking of which, there's... Oh, geez, it's in my face. So there's the sale going on right now, and it goes on for the next more than 12 hours. So at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, it's currently 9:21 Central Time here, a.m., but yeah, there's a sale going on all the t-shirts and stuff like that are in the merch bunker. They're all 10% off. You have to use code MINIONS, and you can do that till tonight at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. So that's, 15 hours from now, something like that. And there's been a new shirt that has been released, and it's the I Want to Pachow shirt. Not only is there a shirt, but there's also two sizes of poster. There's a 18 by 24 and a 24 by 36. So if you're familiar with the old X-Files TV show, Mulder always had this poster behind his desk that says I want to believe, and it had a little UFO floating there in the woods. And so I recreated it. Like originally I was going to go out and shoot pictures. I was going to go try to find some trees and take a bunch of pictures of trees and then in Photoshop put them together to look kind of like the poster. And then I thought, but I have a bunch of miniature trees and I can put them together and shoot them at any time and it will just make a lot more sense. So these are not real trees. These are trees that I use as terrain. They're actually in the studio. You'll see them in bat wraps eventually. So I set them up. And then just to add a little bit of extra fun into there, I put a couple of skeleton miniatures down in the bottom there next to the text. And then instead of having the UFO floating up there, that is just the logo on a little piece of string kind of floating in the frame. So like I said, 18 by 24, 24 by 36 posters, and T-shirts and men's, women's, all that different stuff. Currently all 10% off until roughly midnight tonight, my time. Use offer code MINIONS. You can get yourself some shirts. You could get the other shirts if you don't like that shirt. You could get one of the punk rock Pachow one, which looks like this one. You could get Blood for the Blood God one, Live, Laugh, Blood for the Blood God, all that different stuff. But anyway, boom, right there. 10% off until midnight my time tonight. Sale started on Friday, and so yeah, it's and the cool thing about the sale is that this is actually through the manufacturer, so the 10% comes off of their side and not my side. So the benefit is for me having the sale is that the 10% comes off of the cost and not off of the profit, which helps support the channel. So that's really nice of them to do. I've got a pretty good relationship with them at this point. I've sold enough shirts now that I've got like a customer service person who I can talk to and say, or email, and then we can work on things, which is neat. So there you go. There's your shirts and whatnot ad for today. Aaron asks, do you ever wish that Battletech would be reborn with proper miniatures of similar quality to Titanicus? Well, Titanicus miniatures are large. I mean, they're like, like the normal, granted a normal Imperial Knight's maybe only yay high, but like the normal Warhound Titans and Warlord Titans and stuff like that are getting, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches tall. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think there would be fewer models on the table if they went that way. It'd be interesting, though. I'd like to see it. Joshua says, I'm excited to underpaint with sketch style. Thanks for the video. And then glaze using a rainbow of squig to paint a rainbow squig. Neat. Yeah, I actually want to give that a try myself. I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head that I would do it on, because I don't paint a lot of nature stuff, but I think it could be used on some other things too. I think it works best in that type of situation. But yeah, I would like to try it maybe with some battle damage stuff, like paint up the battle damage and then color everything. So there. JP Godrocket says, good morning from the Pocket Dimension. Glad to see you there. Corvus Games Terrain says, afternoon. Hello. VJ Morph says, I've watched the Rec Age back rep. Well, there's at least one then. That's good. Let's see here. Good morning from Manila, Philippines. Great to catch the stream. Well, glad to have you. Absolutely. Let me see. Mark Rush says, good morning from McKinney, Texas. What are your thoughts on the new box set pricing? Seems to be getting prohibitive to new joiners. When I saw the price for that new weird elf box, not elf, Eldar, Dark Eldar, whatever that new box was, I'm not going to lie, I was like, wow, that is way more money than I thought it was going to be. Now, admittedly, there's vehicles in there. But they're small, little, weedy elf vehicles. You know what I mean? So I was like, but those elf vehicles are still kind of expensive. I mean, they're not, repulsor tank expensive, but they're still kind of expensive. So yeah, I was kind of surprised by that box price. Straight up, this is what's going to happen in my mind. Eventually, they may find a price that people are not willing to pay or will not sell as well as they would like. People can complain about it all day long online. That's what the internet's about, is complaining, for the most part. That and cat videos, as far as I can tell, which is fine. But it's when people actually stop buying that expensive stuff that then companies, not just Games Workshop, but companies in general, obviously they're the biggest in the industry, they will then be like, maybe we should lower that price. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to buy the elf box, but, I wasn't really going to do it anyway. Like, it could have been $20, and I've been like, no, I'm not going to buy it, because I'm not into the Eldar or the Dark Eldar or the middle gray Eldar or the bright green Eldar or any of that kind of Eldar stuff. But I do admit, when I saw the pre-order, price for it, I was like, Jesus, that's that, because it's like, I don't know, it was like over $200, wasn't it? I don't know, it was a lot. So I was kind of surprised by that, but then again, like I said, it does come with several vehicles in there. So, but yeah, that's my opinion on that. Like, people talk about how the Beastgrave starter box went from $70 where it used to be $60, and I'm like, well, that's just, that's price just the way that these things go. That when you compare it against Shadespire, which came out 4 years ago, I mean, I expect that to happen eventually. It's very strange, and it's funny because people, like, video games have cost $60 for a long time, pretty much, but everyone complains about how, like, oh, there's all these loot boxes and all these other monetization things and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, things keep getting more expensive in general, and the video game industry has just decided that they're going to get in real trouble if they raise the price of video games above $60. So they just keep the game $60, but then they tack on all this extra stuff to make their money that they need to make anyway. Now, you can go on and on about capitalism, and I can totally understand that. But my point is that what the games industry does, video games industry, is they're like, we'll just keep the base price the same, but keep tacking on all this extra crap to try to make more and more money, which kind of makes them look greedy, obviously. And there's a certain group of people out there who are like cool with it, and certain group of people who are not. Whereas in this industry, they just basically go, well, this is now this much, and we have to raise the prices because food's more expensive, gas is more expensive, everything's more expensive. I mean, that's the way it works. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion. So, where are we at here? Oh, geez, everything went to flip a little bit here. What do we got here? My cats are being a nuisance, though. They are intent to make the horses more furry. Oh, the horses you're painting. Yeah, no, that's why I don't let the cats in the basement, because then, yeah. Let's see here. When you play a game with a relatively small fan base and you... let's see here. No, what do we got here? Which kill teams do you like playing most? What do you like about those teams? I like playing my Death Guard a lot because I like the Death Guard. They're just a great model set. I mean, they're really cool models. I like them. And also they're they seem to be decently powerful within the game. I like that. I used to like playing my Necrons, but honestly, like the Necrons are what I've been playing in this campaign, and I'm not doing well. So I kind of want to do some other Primaris stuff, honestly. Especially now that in the next White Dwarf they're releasing rules for the Vanguard Primaris, so that you can use those, which would be very cool. Because then I've got a whole bunch of Shadow Spear stuff that I can, flip around and use actually in Kill Team, and that'll be a lot of fun. Let's see here. I'm currently working on some volcanic bases for my new Star Wars Legion droid army. Gotta love that GW crackle paint. Yes, but here's just a tip. Make sure you paint the base first with whatever, generally primer, and then put the crackle paint on it. Because I used to put the crackle paint directly onto the plastic, and it would crackle and do its job, and that's fine, but it wouldn't have anything to stick to, and the crackles would fall off. As, like not necessarily right away, but like some of them would start to fall off as I was painting the rest of the model, and then, yeah, so I've never been a big fan of putting crackle paint on and then leaving it, like, as the last step. I generally always put it, like, I paint the base with a brush-on primer, let that dry. Then I put on crackle paint, and then I prime the entire model. So now I'm putting a layer of paint over the crackle paint, which will hopefully also help it to stick even more. And then I go back and I do a little bit of painting and stuff like that. But that's just a tip from your Uncle Adam. Do what you want. But yeah, that's definitely the case. Just don't stick crackle paint directly to the plastic base, because, like I said, it will just come off, which is a bummer. Let's see here. Joseph Phillips says, I just started to put together a Counts as Thousand Sons army of heretic sisters of battle made from female Stormcast and AdMech bits. Thanks for giving me the push for Kill Team. Well, that does sound like a lot of fun. Yeah. I love the conversion possibilities you can do with Kill Team as well. Me and a group of guys around here, including Sam, have been talking about, like, we want to do something that's like a John Blanche style war band. We each want to do our own little war band, some sort of Blanchitsu kind of war band. And we haven't been able to figure out what game to play it with. I'm kind of pushing for Kill Team because it's easy. Some of the guys are like, well, we should try to do something that's, like Inquisitor. And we're like, well, and then there's Inquisimunda and there's all this stuff. But then getting everybody on the same rule set is kind of hard. So yeah, but something we're kicking around. But I'm looking forward to being able to do some, like, kind of heavy conversions on something like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Let me see here. Headhunter says, speaking of Pachow, do you ever find yourself almost automatically doing that during a live stream when you talk about something you've done for a video in the past? I do wish there was, like, a button I could push that would make it work. I don't know how that would happen, but yeah, it would be kind of cool. Have you heard of a game system called Lion Rampant or Dragon Rampant? Yes, I actually think I own both of them. Games where you can use any models. If you ever experiment with smaller, less talked about tabletop alternative games? Yeah, like I said, those are both from Osprey. They're the Blue Book series. Those kind of smaller, like Blue Books. Like the original Gaslands was a Blue Book game. There's a sci-fi one that I can't think of. It's written by the guy who did Song of Blades and Heroes, Rogue Stars. That one's also a Blue Book series. I've got that one. And then, yeah, Lion Rampant and Dragon Rampant I've got. So both of them are, like, well, one of them is fantasy skirmish. Dragon Rampant is fantasy skirmish. So there's, like, elves, dwarves, whatever. And I know that because dragons are not real. Newsflash. Lion Rampant is, like, more like historical medieval type skirmish. And I know that because lions are real. So that's kind of how they named them. So if you're ever wondering which one's the fantasy one and which one's the medieval one, lions are real and dragons are not real. So there you go. But yeah, I've not played them. I've read through the books and checked them out. I like to do that a lot with different rule sets. But I have not sat down to play them. I honestly should try... I should see if I can get my Frostgrave miniatures, minus the wizards. Well, I mean, if I played Dragon Rampant, I could try them out too. But yeah, I should try to get my Frostgrave miniatures into those two games and see if they're any fun to play. Yeah, I'll have to double check into that. That's a good idea. But yeah, I do own both of those books. They're in my bookshelf at the studio, actually. Yeah. Let me see here. Pablo says, Uncle Adam, designer, entrepreneur, model. Oh, indeed. That's some modeling out there. Yeah, I'm definitely I just thought, like, I could have just, like, I could just throw up, like, a picture of, like, the shirt, but I'm like, I should probably try to do something a little, fun with that. So it's fun. Phoenix Production says you could even build a miniature game in Minecraft if you literally do anything that in survival is fun. So, Minecraft. Yes, let me get to the subject of today's video. It's only 35 minutes in, but that's fine. So, my problem with Minecraft is that it is sucking away a lot of my hobby time lately. So what happened is about a month ago, what's today's date? A little over a month ago, I got this just a horrible cold. And I know people talk about the man cold, and like, oh, it's, you're just being a wuss. But I was just like, really, it was literally like the worst cold that I've had in like as long as I can remember. I thought I had the flu, but I didn't. My temperature was fine, but I was dizzy. Everything ached. Obviously, everything was running all the time. There was a Every Other Sunday show about a month ago where I it started like on a Thursday, and by Sunday I was like, oh, maybe it's a bit better now, and I did an episode. But if you remember, at the end, everything was plugged up, and it was just sucked. And people were like, go lay down. So, and then I was like still sick for another week after that. And honestly, right now, I'm still, like, my throat still, I've got a little bit of a thing on and off. So it's not completely done yet. So while that was going on, I was not in the mood to snip bits and glue things, and because just everything was running. There were days where I just like spent the entire day with Kleenex up my nose, just stuffed up both nostrils because otherwise it would just run onto my shirt. It sucked. So I would lay on the couch, and all that kind of stuff. But then after a while, you get tired of laying on the couch, and I ended up, for whatever reason, I started playing some Minecraft, which I've had Minecraft since it was, I think, in alpha. Like, I remember I had to go to the Mojang website and pay like 10 euros, which was 13 some dollars or whatever at the time, to get into the alpha or whatever, and then play it and all that stuff. Anyway. So this was long before Microsoft bought them and all that kind of jazz. So I've played it on and off, but never super seriously or anything like that. And I'm still not playing it seriously. But what I'm finding is that, like, I sometimes struggle with video games, and people have in the past said, well, like, I did a video a while back about why tabletop games are better than video games. And in that, I was talking about this game called Rust that I had been playing, and I was trying to chop down a tree, and I didn't even have pants, and then a guy shotgunned me in the back of the head, and all that stuff. You can go back and watch that. I would pachow it, but like I said, I can't. But anyway, so a lot of people in the comments for that were like, well, that shouldn't be your first video game ever, noob. What are you doing? That's stupid. I've been playing video games since before the Atari 2600. Like, we had a 2600 as a kid when I was growing up. We had an NES. Never had a Super NES. My brother at some point borrowed for like a year and a half somebody's Genesis. So we had that. After college, I bought PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Didn't go with PlayStation 3. Switched over to Xbox 360. Switched back to PlayStation 4, which is what I've got now. Plus, I was playing PC games all along that time. Me and a friend started a LAN party. In our first LAN party, we had like 5 people show up. And then it kept growing and growing until we started to need to rent space. Our largest LAN party that we ever put out was 98 people. So, like, video games was a big portion of my life until around 2004 when I started to paint more. I had been doing stuff on and off previous to that, but I would never. And then, like, there's like a tipping point, and all of a sudden, I played video games once in a while, and I mostly painted. And I have found that video games take away a lot of my hobby time, obviously, because you only got so much time in the day. All of us pretty much got the same amount of time in the day. So my problem that has been with Minecraft recently is that I've been playing it and I'm trying, but the thing about Minecraft, like, it's easy for me to be like, I'm not going to play this game anymore because it's just wasting my time. I'm not doing anything creative. I'm just shooting bad guys in the face or whatever. But Minecraft is creative. Like, I built a farm, I've got cows because I need to get leather so that I can then build books, so I can build an enchanting stand. Well, you have to build books, you need leather for that, and paper, and then you have to be able to make bookshelves, and then you can build an enchanting stand so that I can make, like, armor that's better, and pickaxes that are better, and all that kind of jazz. And I got sheep because I want wool, and I got all this different stuff, and it's a thing, So the creativity in Minecraft makes it harder for me and my brain to be like, well, I'm wasting my time. I mean, I'm still not ending up with anything physical. When you are sitting down and painting or building or whatever, at the end of the day, when you're finished, you have models you can put on a shelf. People can come over and be like, hey, look at that. When you're doing stuff in Minecraft, unless you're playing on a server with a bunch of other people, it's kind of hard to impress anyone with what you're doing. And even if, it filled a niche. It did when I was sick, because I was just like, I can't model right now, but I can sit here and just kind of lay back and just do some stuff, and dig holes in the ground and fight creepers or whatever. But I'm having a hard time trying to like get off of that hobby horse and back onto my real hobby horse. You know what I mean? And I think it's because of the way that the game is very creative and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like, it's difficult. There's some other games that are coming out soon that I'm kind of interested in, video games. There's a game coming out actually next week, which luckily I won't be home for when it comes out, because I'll be at Dragonfall, which is in northern Illinois and in Elgin, Illinois, coming up next weekend. I'll be there with moderator Matt, as it is. And that's a small but growing miniatures convention that's happening in northern Illinois. So I'll be there. If you're in northern Illinois, you should go to Dragonfall, because it's cool. Look it up on Google or whatever. But yeah, the game that's coming out next weekend is called The Outer Worlds, sorry. And it's made by Obsidian, who've done a bunch of stuff that I've liked in the past. And it's got like a Fallout vibe, but it doesn't have that kind of 50s faux retro futuristic weird trapping that I'm just not into anymore. I was a huge fan of Fallout 1, Fallout 2. I liked Fallout 3 quite a bit. Fallout 4, I was like, it started to wear on me, and then I never got into Fallout 76. I'm like, why is it, it was 2077 when the bombs dropped. It's actually October 23rd, by the way, 2077. It's coming up, the anniversary in 3 days. It's not the anniversary if it hasn't happened yet. Well, whatever. Anyway, so so the bombs dropped, and but at that point, it's the future from now. But everybody still thinks it's cool to be the 50s, and like it's just everyone's car is 30 feet long, and all the women are wearing cocktail dresses, and it just for whatever reason it just doesn't appeal to me as much as it used to. But this Outer Worlds looks cool, and it's got a lot of the same vibe, but not the same 50s weird thing. Still alternate history, which I think is kind of cool. So that's going to take some time. But again, I think that it'll be one of those things I do at night when I'm like done hobbying, and it won't just take up huge swaths of time, because I've like really just got to build a slightly deeper mine so I can find diamonds, that kind of stuff. And then next year is, luckily after Adepticon, is Cyberpunk 2077. Super looking forward to that, but that's going to suck up a lot of my hobby time as well, I think. So yeah, I don't know. That's the issue. That's the issue, is that Minecraft has been holding my attention more lately than it should, due to me being sick and then getting better, but also because of the creativity involved in it. It's been harder to just like justify in my mind and go, well, this is wasting my time. I should go back downstairs in the basement and build some models, because I'm like, oh, I'm doing creative stuff. I'm making myself a cool house that I'm going to put my stuff in or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. That's been my issue. It's what I've been thinking about lately, and I'm trying to wean myself off of it so I can get more things done, like stormtroopers. It's like lots of stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of my issue, and I don't know if anyone else has had that same problem before or not. But anyway, that's my problem with Minecraft. Again, I'm just having a problem because I should be getting more stuff done, and I don't know if any of you have that kind of issue as well, where you're like, video games suck away more time from hobby than you would like. But yeah, it's a difficult one. Let's see here. People talking about the floating coffee cup. Well, yeah, it's a big one. It's lovely. I was given it by some folks actually at TMX. They brought it over from London, which was very lovely. Let's see here. What else? So there's been a bunch of stuff going on here that I missed. Matthew Sears says, I have never played Minecraft. It is a little... It's not your jam, I could tell. It is not punk rock. Let's just say that at all. I get that, right. Let me see here. JP Got Rockets is wondering why dragons aren't real. No, No, they're totally real. Yeah, I think they're up in the North Pole with Santa. Adron says, I do enjoy playing some Minecraft. Recently been playing in that and 7 Days to Die, trying the new Alpha 18 version. I have watched 7 Days to Die a little bit. Like, it's been on while I've been doing other stuff, and I've kind of watched it. The Achievement Hunter folks from Rooster Teeth, and it's one of those deals where it looks like that the concept sounds fun, but visually, it's not good. It's just kind of not my aesthetic thing. That's one of the reasons my wife and I don't play Minecraft together. She doesn't like the look of Minecraft. Like, there's something about it. She's like, I just don't like the way it looks. Which, okay, well, that's fine. AJ Pickett says, back in the day, I used to write the game programs from magazines into the system in order to play the games. Oh yeah. No, my friend Mike and I, he had an Atari 800. This is a long time ago, and yeah, you would buy these magazines, and in the back of the magazine, there would be like, you would have to go through and type in the program and follow, and if you missed like a comma, like, it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it was like you had to go through and type in the entire program from the back of the magazine and then run it. Like, back in the day on the Atari 800, you saved games on an audio cassette. So like, there would be times we would want to play a game. There was this awesome game for the Atari 800 called Preppy, which was basically a ripoff of Frogger. But instead of being a frog, you were a golfer who was trying to get across the highway to get his golf ball that had gone across the highway, you know. But I thought it had pretty cool art. It was neat looking and everything. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, you would put that tape in there. You would get it all set up and queued up, and you'd type like load and the name of the program and hit, and then we would go watch TV for half an hour while it loaded, and then eventually we could play the game. Like a half an hour. It was yeah, and it was pretty amazing. Now that's a phone game, and it's not even a very good one. Actually, I should look and see if Preppy has become a phone game. That'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, so. That's the way it used to be back in the day. Let's see here. People talking about, my PS3 died last August. It's been a productive year without it. Yeah. I missed 10-hour sessions of Battlefield 3 or 4, Killzone 3, Call of Duty, etc. Oof, yeah. AJ Pickett is hooked on the Star Wars MMO right now. I don't think I'm even familiar with the Star Wars MMO. That's interesting. Making stuff that's physical versus virtual seems like a materialism argument. No idea where I'm going with that thought. No, me neither, but it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I think that to some degree, and I've said this before, one of the reasons that I generally enjoy tabletop gaming in comparison to video gaming is honestly more the hobby aspect. Like, it is obviously easier to sit down and play a video game than it is to find another person, get things all set up, play a tabletop game. There's more social, generally, in the tabletop thing, but, you know, there's also the ability to get a multiplayer game when you're playing a video game. You can get it at any time of the day or night, generally. But the hobby portion of where I sit down and spend 3 hours painting versus I sit down and spend 3 hours building stuff in Minecraft, at the end of those 2 periods of time, I have a physical object that I can look upon years later, or I can use in games, or I can show to my friends, or I can keep in a cabinet or whatever, versus, you know, if I delete that instance, it's gone. You know, there's no physical thing. It would be super cool. Here's a free business idea for those of you out there. Figure out some sort of way where you could, like, make a section, like you could take your world in Minecraft and figure out, like, this is the, you know, however many blocks by however many blocks. I want to have, you know, 100 blocks by 100 block area, and then set it up, output that somehow, and then get it 3D printed. So, like, you could actually, like, you could build a whole bunch of cool stuff and then get it 3D printed and have, like, an actual thing, like full color 3D print, whatever. You know, there's companies that do that. And then you have this neat little thing that you could put on. I know that the people from World of Warcraft, for a while, you could get a 3D printed version of your little person that you run around in World of Warcraft. So yeah, do that for Minecraft. That'd be at least a thing you could be like, oh, look, I built this in Minecraft and then had it 3D printed, and that'd be sort of cool. Now you scale it up a little bit, make it 28 millimeter scale, and now you got yourself like a board. And anyway, it's not necessarily a good idea, but nonetheless, yeah. So JP Gotrocket says we used to LAN party in an office building that I worked maintenance in. Remember X-Wing versus TIE Fighter? I do. I played X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I played also X-Wing. I also played TIE Fighter. Before that, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter came later, and that was the multiplayer more thing. Although I think... Did TIE Fighter by itself have multiplayer added on later? I don't remember anymore. Kind of all was a blur. But I used to play the hell out of those games. They were a lot of fun. AJ Pickett says that Minecraft doesn't take up shelf space. That's a good point, actually. My brother has brought that up to me before. My brother's a big Minecraft player. Like, he plays, like, he, you know, pays to rent a server and has some people he plays with, and it's online and the whole thing and all that stuff. Yeah, so. But on the other hand, you can't glue Minecraft to your fingers, can you? No. So, you got, you know, there you go. Total War is a worse time sink than Minecraft. There's a guy actually at work, at Milk Can, where I work, where we do Game 4 stuff, and he's a big Total War fan, and I think he got into Total War Warcraft recently. So it's funny because now he, like, when me and Matt, not moderator Matt, but Matt at Game 4, when we start talking about Warhammer stuff and things like that, now Cliff, who's been playing some of the video games, is like, oh yeah, I know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, I get that reference, you know, and so that's kind of fun too. Hey, Dave Shruby says the ray tracing mod for Minecraft looks pretty amazing. Honestly, I grabbed not the ray tracing mod, but I grabbed a shader pack and put it on when I first started playing. And, like, my PC's pretty good. It's a laptop, but it's an RTX 2060 6 gig, like, you know, video card, and it's got 32 gigs of RAM, and it's a very good processor and all that stuff. And it was working fine, and then all of a sudden, like, I could play it with the shaders on for about maybe 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it would, like, start to blink on and off. Like, I could see through the world, and then I could see everything again, and then I could see through the world, and I could see everything again. So I think I need a different shader pack because there was something that was making it unhappy. I don't know if it was like a memory leak or what, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. The generally, like, some of the really cool new, like, shader packs and stuff like that make Minecraft. I mean, it's still, everything's like a big giant block, but the lighting all of a sudden looks a lot cooler and stuff like that. And they fixed the sky so the clouds aren't blocks and stuff like that, which I think is fun. Kilty O'Neill says, I remember Compute Magazine had a lot of code you could type in for the first home computers. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun too. Well, no, it wasn't actually. It was just a lot of typing, and you're just like, and you type in all these things, and then it wouldn't work. You have to go through and check it line by line. It was a hoot. ColecoVision. I forgot about ColecoVision. I never had one of those, but I had a friend who did. Devin Jones says, damn, I feel like no one's remembered the Atari 400/800. So excited to see someone else who had one. Yeah, I never had one, but my good friend Mike did. He had a 400, which had the weird little, like, touchpad keys. They weren't even, like, real keys. And then he had the 800. And then his parents started selling through their business. They sold, I don't know, like, HVAC stuff. Like, they installed heating and cooling, but then they also started selling Atari computers. So that when the Atari STs came out, stuff like that, which were 16-bit, like, they started getting those, and it's a whole thing. Like, the very first computer I ever used to do any kind of graphic arts on was an Atari ST, because his parents had, like, Atari ST computers, and it was the first computer I ever used a mouse on and all that stuff. And then they even had a laser printer, so you could print out stuff that it wasn't dot matrix like with Print Shop, you know. And it was a laser printer. It was the size of a car. All right, it wasn't the size of a car, but it was massive. It was this humongous box. It took like two of us to lift, but it printed, you know. So yeah, I actually, when I was in late high school, or maybe very early college, I got a gig where I was doing. There was a bar, and they wanted like a calendar that they could lay on the bar that people could take with them to show all the drink specials and all the special events and Packer games and all that kind of junk. And so they were paying me to produce this calendar, and I was using this weird desktop publishing software on the Atari ST over at my friend's house called Calamus, I think it was called. And then I would print it on his laser printer and then take it to Kinko's and crank them out, and I would deliver them and I would get paid. And I was doing that for a while. It was fun. Yeah. Let's see here. Kingdom Come Deliverance scratched my historical itch for the last week, killed my hobby drive, but it was so much fun. And that's kind of the issue sometimes, is that, and sometimes you need it. Sometimes your hobby drive dies anyway, and then you go play video games for a bit, and then you come back. I've just been stuck on Minecraft because it's still got that, it scratches that creative itch, and it's problematic. The other thing I do sometimes too, though, is I'll be hobbying during the day or during the later evening after I get home from work, and until I get like an eye strain headache because I have a tendency to look over the top of my glasses. Although I've been fixing that more with those that head-mounted magnifying thing I did videos about how you can keep hobbying when you get older. Anyway, so. But if I do start to get the eye strain headache, I find that it's either better for me to go upstairs into the den and either watch TV, not TV, but YouTube actually, but watch something on the TV because it's further away, so I focus further away, or play PlayStation. Like if I sat down and like started to play Minecraft, I'm like a foot from the screen or whatever, and so that doesn't necessarily help my eyes. But if I'm focusing on something that's 6 feet away, that does. So I have lately sometimes been playing video games at night before going to bed. Not for like very long, but I do it anyway, and it helps my eyes. So yeah, there's that. I've talked in the past that if I was ever going to start streaming on Twitch, it would be kind of random, and it would probably mean playing video games at night after hobbying. So I would just be playing video games and talking about whatever. I'd have to get a whole different setup. I'd need to put a PC next to the computer or to the TV. I'd probably have to get a different TV and a different PlayStation and move it into the basement. And yeah, so don't hold your breath on that Twitch thing, I guess. People talking about... John J says, how about exporting Minecraft to your 3D printer? Well, that was kind of the idea that I had. There you go. Why is this about Minecraft? Ha ha ha. Well, like I said, it's just the subject that I usually have in this show once per, every other. I usually put a short subject into every show where I talk about something. This episode, I just was like, I have this Minecraft problem and it's been slowing down my hobby, so that's how it's related. But yeah, that's kind of the way it works. So yeah, so let's stop talking about Minecraft, even though it's. You know that Microsoft bought it for like $2.75 billion with a B? That's, man, it's crazy. Anyway, yeah. Joshua says, hello from Ellsworth, Wisconsin. I know how it feels to have to try to play video games, but you also do woodworking and paint minis and also have a full-time job and a wife. Yes. That's the thing about hobbies is that you can easily have too many of them. Not to say that having a wife is a hobby. Just FYI, just let's put that out there. Families are not hobbies either. But, one of the reasons, like yesterday, someone mentioned in the chat for the Irregulars chat, talking about like racing drones, like quadcopters and stuff like that. And I said, if I wasn't doing hobby, if I wasn't painting little tiny people and all that kind of stuff, I'd probably be into that because I think that's really cool. I really like the stuff. It would be really interesting to me because I kind of don't understand electronics very much. It would be very interesting to me to learn that stuff. So that would be the hobby I would do if I wasn't doing wargaming. But I stay away from it for the most part. I did buy a drone, a little one, but it's not like racing drones where you're doing a bunch of tweaking and wiring and soldering and stuff like that. It's just like, there's a thing, and you plug it in, and sometimes you charge the batteries. That's easy. But all that being said, like my photography/videography, that's one hobby, which then relates to helping me make YouTube videos so that I can do that. And then, but like if I wasn't doing wargaming, I'd probably be having a channel about drones and stuff and how to get into it, for new drone users, whatever. New droners? Anyway, so yeah, that would be kind of the thing. Yeah, but the trick is that if you have too many hobbies, then you can't ever really focus on one very well, and it's harder to get good or at least better on any one of those. So that's why I try to limit. Like, there's all kinds of cool things. Like, I'd love to go out and play paintball and do this. And I used to have a friend of mine who had 28 different hobbies. And, like, number one, it just basically ends up costing you a ton of money because you buy a whole bunch of stuff that you then don't use. You know what I mean? So there's that. But, yeah. So yeah, trying to limit the number of hobbies you have so you can spend more time doing just a couple, or at least maybe one or two, is actually a good idea. Guillermo Hernandez says, anyone know what happened with Beast of War? I got confused when they disappeared from my subscriptions and on Tabletop showed up. They just changed their name. It was a marketing thing. Well, it was partially a marketing thing. But it was also from what they just recently talked about. I saw it someplace. I don't know, it was a blog post or whatever. But also, like, the word war is not liked by the YouTube algorithm. Whenever I put the word wargaming into anything that I do in YouTube, wargaming is always used as one word, wargaming, as opposed to war gaming, because war, not YouTube's not a fan. So the fact that their company is called Beasts of War was not helping them so very well on YouTube. Also, they wanted to branch out more into board games and stuff like that, and even I think RPGs and stuff. So Beasts of War was specifically kind of about wargaming, and now on Tabletop is about tabletop gaming. So yeah, that was just a change on their part. They didn't go away. They're the same folks. It's just they changed their name and their logo and all that jazz. Aaron Strikes as Minecraft the tabletop war game. Someone must be thinking about this for Kickstarter. Well, I mean, technically, I think there's Minecraft Legos. You can just use those, I suppose. Marvin says, too many obligations. Ooh, I like that. Obligations. That's a good word. Jose says, when I get addicted to a PS4 game, I make sure to finish all my hobbying for the day before I play. It actually forces me to accomplish more as opposed to working on a project without juggling a game. At that point, it becomes like a prize. It becomes like a treat. Like, oh, if I get this squad finished, then I will be able to go play video games. That's not a bad idea. I think so. John Ashley Smith says, too many hobbies, guilty. Yeah, it's a tough one. Because there's so many fun things to do. You know what I mean? Paul says, droning on with Uncle Adam. See, there you go. That would be a good name for a live show if I was to become a drone guy, which I'm not. Yeah. Paintball is fun. Yeah, no, it is fun. I mean, getting shot in the head is not fun. But other than that, it's pretty much fun. John Jay says, in my opinion, our generations will live longer than previous generations, if not for any other reason than our minds are going to continue to be active for longer due to games, tabletop strategy, etc. I think it's going to be very interesting how old am I? Almost 50. So let's say in like 30-ish years, 20 to 30 years, it's going to be really interesting to see the like the retirement homes, and that kind of stuff, and see like how many of those folks are sitting around playing video games. Like right now you go to a retirement home and it's mostly people kind of watching television. Sometimes they're playing like cribbage, stuff like that, if they've got that kind of manual dexterity still or whatever. But I think it'll be interesting to see how many people are like a retirement home and are playing Xbox 1080 or whatever the new Xbox, that kind of stuff. And like how many retirement homes are going to start putting, we've got really good internet here, you know what I mean? Like to let you know that so that you can, or we do LAN parties or whatever, it'll be kind of interesting. I don't know if they'll stick with all the new games or they'll be playing old stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the business model for, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at Good Old Games, GOG.com. They're not an ad. They're a place where you can buy, like they've taken old games that don't run on your computer anymore and they've done something to them to update them so they will run on modern computers, and so you can play old stuff. And maybe that's just a business model they're thinking ahead to when my generation and maybe your slightly younger generation gets old and wants to play, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. There's that. Let's see here. Minecraft is Lego. Okay. I wonder if Tilt 5 augmented reality glasses have a wargame company working on some virtual tabletop stuff. I keep seeing this ad. I think it's on Facebook. And it's a group of people sitting around a table and they have these weird white glasses on. And then it's like, it's showing that, now they are all playing a tabletop game, except that there's nothing there, but they're wearing these glasses. I don't know if that would be sort of interesting to do in a situation. Like when I did that video about the future of tabletop wargaming and talked about like AR, augmented reality, which is basically what that is when you can still see the room and everything, but you can also see stuff that's not there. Whereas virtual reality is I put on a headset, now I can't see anything in the room and everything's been replaced. So augmented reality, it's augmenting what's already there. But yeah, so AR, like, I think that would be interesting. Yeah, but I don't know if they're working on that. It looks like they're working on like regular board games to start with, but yeah. Quiet Side asks, will you make an official Tabletop Minions miniature? At some point, maybe. So on the Patreon, which I got a button here for it. Boom, right there. So on patreon.com/tabletop minions, I launched that a number of years back. There are goals. They ask you, Patreon, when you're setting it up, is like, hey, put in these different milestone goals and things like that. And so one of the milestone goals is if I hit a certain number of money per month or whatever, that kind of stuff, then I will basically make a line of Uncle Adam miniatures, which would be sci-fi Uncle Adam and fantasy Uncle Adam and post-apocalyptic Uncle Adam and all that kind of stuff. And it was one of those numbers that I picked and I was just like, well, that's never going to happen, so it's fine. And I'm kind of getting close, which is weird. So potentially, I don't think it'll happen this year. Might happen next year if I hit that number. So I have actually honestly reached out a little bit to some folks and asked about, like, how do I, who do I contact for molding and who do I contact for getting some 3D renders and all that kind of stuff and everything. So I've started a little bit of the legwork and doing a bit of research because I've been getting closer to that number. But yeah, I don't have any plans to do it unless I hit that number. Then I kind of have to make it happen. So there you go. There's your answer on that. Paul Noxie says, I'll still be playing Dead Space when I'm 70. Sure, there's no reason to not do that. Let me see here. Retirement homes will be the new GW marketplace. Well, I don't know. A fixed income, that's going to be kind of tough. Mikey says, I think with all the anxiety and overstimulation in modern life, far fewer of us will make it to retirement. So that's kind of an opposite opinion from the previous person. So yeah, it'll be interesting. G the Hyper Sapien says Warhammer. See, yeah, so that's the thing. So like Warhammer as a word, fine. But if it was Warhammer, 2 words, YouTube would not dig that too much because they don't like the word war. Let's see here. The Fancy Pants retirement home here in town has a small arcade in it with skee ball. So, well, that's probably for the kids, though. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I was at a retirement home probably 4 years ago. I was doing a video shoot there, and they had a bar. So, I mean, why not? I mean, it's Wisconsin, admittedly. So, like, yeah. But, yeah, they had a bar in the retirement home, which was kind of awesome. Let me see here. What's wrong with Minecraft? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There's nothing wrong with Minecraft. My problem with Minecraft is I'm playing it more than I should, and I'm not getting my hobby stuff done. I was sick, and so I couldn't hobby because everything was just running out of my face. It was totally gross. So I kind of stuffed Kleenex up my nose, and I sat back and I played Minecraft on my PC. And now it's a month later, and I'm still playing it. I'm not getting as much hobby done. And it's because Minecraft is more creative than your average video game, at least in my mind. And so yeah, that's kind of how that works. John Ashley Smith says, what, no barbarian Uncle Adam? Well, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I was kind of thinking the fantasy Uncle Adam could either be in armor or... Now, honestly, there's a company called Minuteman Miniatures, and they were at a small little convention in Milwaukee like 2 years ago, and what they do is they use this thing and they scan your head. It's basically like the Kinect that came on the... that you could buy, I think, for either the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One. I think it's maybe the Xbox 360 one. Anyway, so and not the one that came in the Xbox One. Anyway, they put 3D printed a handle on it, and they would scan your head 360, and then they use 3D printing and they put your head onto models, and then and they have a bunch of different models, and so I think I have a Viking with my head on it. But the thing is, they can't put the glasses on because it screws everything up. So that's kind of a bummer. It looks like me because it is me, but with no glasses, so that looks a little weird. But yeah, so I do have one of those on the basement. I just haven't painted it. Let me see. Horns fan says, when I started painting, I realized I liked it because it was creative. I like Minecraft for the same reason, but I favor painting because it physically persists. I take pride at looking at the end result. Exactly. I think that's the case, especially for me. I like the creative aspect of both of those things, but at the end of the day, I've got a lot of stormtroopers, and I've got a bunch of these guys, and I've got these guys, and I've got, whatever. And with Minecraft, generally what will happen in the past, and it hasn't happened so far, knock on wood, But generally what happens is I'm playing single-player Minecraft for a while until like a creeper lands on my head deep in a cavern someplace and blows me up, and I lose all my good stuff, and then I get angry and I delete the world. So and then I'm off of it for a while. But I haven't had that problem. I did recently get killed by whatever those drowned water zombie guys, and I was pretty far away from my like base, but I was able to find my stuff again. So then that didn't make me end everything. I mean, I could have gotten everything back. I've gotten to the point now where it's like it's not hard for me to build a new compass and to build a new this and to build a new that. But nonetheless. Ooh, people are asking for a Nick Raimondo miniature. Maybe something 3D printed. That'd be kind of fun. Oh, Zombie Adam. That's not a bad idea either. I could see that. Yeah, that'd be a good miniature. What else here? I expected to hear reasons why Minecraft was a failed game. No, I would say anything that a couple of people over in Europe decided to build and then Microsoft bought for $2.75 billion. And yeah, I don't know that that's a failed game. I've always enjoyed it, but it's not. Obviously it's not a competitive game particularly. You don't see tournaments for it. It's not an esport, but still, I think it's. I love the creativity part of it, but like I said, it's slowing me down in getting my actual physical stuff done. So yeah. Went to a Ren fair in Kansas back in 2017. They had a crazy photo booth that would let the vendor 3D print you as a figure. Oh, that's kind of cool too. Yeah. Let's see here. Fellow Atari 800 generation here, by the way. Typed magazine programs into tape as well. Played the TI 99 4A and logged into BBS's when we first got our 300 baud modem. Oh yeah. No, my friend Mike and I, with a guy who his parents had all the Atari stuff, we actually ran a BBS for a while. Like at night, he had like his parents would let us run the BBS like from like 10 o'clock on because it was you had to be on the phone line. And then eventually later he convinced his parents to get a second phone line, and then we could keep the BBS up like longer. And BBS, for those of you who don't know, is a bulletin board system, and it was pre-internet. You would actually have to know the phone number of somebody else's computer who had a BBS set up, and you would have to dial it with your modem and call basically their computer. And so there could be initially you could have like one person connected to the BBS at a time, and then eventually there were ways to make it where you could have more people a thing, and then it grew and grew and grew, and then now we're doing all this on our phones or whatever, and it's crazy. So yeah, but back in the day, those BBSs and all that stuff, door games, those were a hoot. It was basically like play by email, like you did your turn, and then eventually everybody else did their turn, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Painting is a form of mindfulness / meditation. Yes, absolutely, and that's another thing that I find lacking even in Minecraft. There's something to be said about, again, sort of the meditation of just like, now I'm going to build a new house, and now I'm going to go and cut down these trees and that kind of stuff, and I'm going to make it so like I'm going to build a dock so I've got someplace to put my boat or whatever, that kind of stuff. But then you've got monsters that attack and things like that, which adds some interest to some people. Honestly, I keep meaning to try to look into it and figure out if there's a way that I can get rid of just creepers. Like, I'm okay with the zombies and the skeletons and blah, blah, but like the creepers with them like dropping on your head and then blowing up when they fall off of, like if you're inside like a cavern, that just annoys the piss out of me. I don't like it. So if I could figure out a way just to turn off just the creepers and keep the rest of them, that'd be fine. But yeah. Aaron says, I would rather draw than play Minecraft. It's the ultimate creative task. Yeah, that's also very possibly if I wasn't into wargaming and decided that drones were not for me either, I would probably go back into drawing. I mean, I went to school for art. I can kind of draw. I could draw better if I practiced much more at it. And yeah, so that's one of those things too. And again, pick your hobbies, kind of, which is why I don't draw a ton, because then it takes away time from other stuff. So yeah. Brian says, that makes me think of a tutorial I'd love to see. How do you paint glasses that aren't intended to be opaque or sunglasses? Ooh, gosh, that's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, it's almost kind of like non-metallic metal. You know what I mean? Where you're basically painting in like the glare and the highlights and the shadows and stuff like that to make it look shiny. But obviously, sometimes non-metallic metal only looks right at just the right angle, whereas metallic metals, in my mind, look better because the glare and the whatnot, the reflection moves with the model in the light. Glasses would be the same situation. Like they would work. You could paint glasses to look just great head on, but as soon as you turned them, they would look weird. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's I don't know how to do that. I can talk to Sam about it, see what he thinks. Let's see here. Arthur says, have a wild bunch of Martians, a brand new vehicle, or some... I don't know what that means. Sorry, can't read that. Uncle Adam, do you know if it's possible to attach a Chinese papered lantern to a wall? I don't know what that means either. I have some of those... What do you call them? They call them Chinese balls, those big paper ones. I use those actually in the Bat Rep studio. They're hanging from the ceiling to give diffused light, but I don't know about attaching them to the wall. Let's see here. Just to be a pendant, VBSs didn't predate the internet, but they did predate the web. Yeah, but that's true because the internet was DARPA or ARPA or one of those people. It was from the 60s. It was connecting military bases and all that stuff, and then eventually colleges and all that. Yes, but the web, yeah, that's very true. Let me see. Sisters of Battle, Uncle Adam? I don't think that's going to work out. I don't know that would work out very well. Let's see here. Good afternoon, Uncle Adam from Leeds. Saw Lynyrd Skynyrd in June and got the old guitar out of the loft and I can't put it down at the expense of my mini painting. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes, and sometimes hobby kind of ebbs and flows. So there's times when you're like, I'm really into the hobby and I'm doing it, and then eventually you're like, I kind of take a break a little bit. I try hard to not take too much of a break if I can. But again, it's also because I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like your average person who's just like painting and doing things, like maybe you get an army finished and then you start playing with it, and you've just got nothing else to paint for a while until something new comes along and you get interested in it. But maybe you don't do any hobby. You just play. You just play for a while or whatever. That's fine too. But yeah. And again, maybe all of a sudden you're doing some stuff and then a different hobby comes along, like guitar playing, and you start doing that for a bit, and then it takes away time from your... I think it's important to do a hobby, in any situation, no matter what it is. I generally prefer something that's creative. I generally prefer something you do with your hands. So guitar works, drawing works, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's, I'm not saying that you can't ever do anything other than painting your models, hobby wargaming or nothing. Certainly not. I try to focus on it because it's part of the channel and also because it's the hobby that I really enjoy. But maybe someday, all of a sudden, I find something I like better. I don't know. I haven't so far right now. Although, like I said, there are times when it goes up and down, and sometimes I play too much Minecraft, and that's my problem. But yeah, that's the way that works. Snowfight asks, Adam, were you ever into MMOs? Years ago, there was a game called... Oh, what the hell was it called? Shadow of Camelot or something of Camelot. Shadows of Camelot? I don't remember. Something about Camelot, and I played that as an MMO. It was an MMO. I played that for quite some time, and that was fun. But I played it a lot longer than I would have, only because I came across a group of like people that I played with like on a regular basis. If I hadn't have bumped into those people or whatever, gotten into their group or whatever, I would have probably stopped playing a lot sooner. So that's a more social thing in that situation, certainly. Non-metallic metal is a style I don't particularly like, but respect the skill it takes to make it look decent. Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing skill. I just don't ever like the look of it. I mean, it reminds me generally of like that airbrush art when you try to make something look like chrome. You know what I mean? When you you paint in like kind of the sky color and the sand color or the dirt color or whatever, and you do that to make it look like it's a chrome thing. and that's great, and it takes a ton of talent, but I just generally don't like the look of it. So I prefer metallic metals myself, but that's just me. Let's see here. I've got such a backlog of unpainted minis that I sometimes feel guilty when I put it aside for a few weeks. I mean, and that's one of the things, like when I did that video about like don't get into the hobby too fast. That's a real thing. People do that. I feel partially one of the reasons I'm annoyed with Minecraft right now is because I have a basement full of miniatures to paint, and so and I'm not doing it when I'm playing Minecraft. So yeah. Kristan, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Hey, Uncle Adam, I'm about 3 months-ish into the Warhammer hobby. I was wondering if you had any advice for me on brush care. I'm trying to make my brushes' life last longer than they would have been. Step one is don't dip your brushes too deep into paint. If I don't have a brush anywhere near me, do I? Oh, no, I don't. But yeah, so if you dip in all the way to the metal, that's not good because you want to keep paint out of the bristles, like right near the metal thing, the ferrule, because more paint that gets packed into that area, then the more your bristles do this. Because there's basically a bunch of little wedges and levers now here making everything go like that. So you want to try to keep that clean to begin with. Don't dip your paint like all the way into or dip your brush all the way into the paint like that. That's step one, honestly. Step two is there's brush soap you can get. So what you can do is you wet your brush, and then it comes in like a little puck, about yay big. Usually I've seen it, but I've also seen square ones too. And you basically just kind of, you don't scrub back and forth. That's not good. But you basically just sort of drag it across the soap, and you sort of turn it as you're doing it so it gets in all over the place. And you do that, and then you let it sit for a bit, and then you put it in the water and kind of go back and forth and try to get as much of it out as possible, and that can help as well. There's a bunch of different tutorials online. I can't really explain everything here, but I would look up paintbrush care, miniatures, something like that on Facebook, and you'll be able to find some stuff. I do need to make a video about brush care. I just need to get more of my facts straight. I personally don't take great care of my brushes. I'm careful on the dipping into paint part, and I do use soap once in a while, but there's a bunch of stuff you can do beyond that I just haven't really pushed. So, yeah. Dark Age of Camelot. That was the game. Yes, I knew it was something about Camelot and shadows or something like that. That's the one. Let's see here. That was a fun game. I did enjoy that. Let's see here. I've hit the wall, or I've hit a wall, at 55 minis built and painted this year. Want to complete 100, but doing other stuff until I get the itch again, and then I'll finish the 30-plus models staring at me. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, Jeremy says, I nearly bought a 3D printer, but then I realized it would gobble up my time and steal the time to paint and the actual playtime of these games. That's the one downside, is that right now, most 3D printers are not particularly, well, I was going to say they're not as easy to use as paper printers, but frankly, paper printers also kind of suck still. It's 2019. Why is it so hard to still use paper printers? Like, I can't tell you, like, I got a new computer at work, and it took us seriously 20 minutes. And these are all people who have been working in the IT field for decades. It took us 20 minutes to get my computer to recognize the wireless printer in the other room. It wasn't even that far away, and it's like a Canon. It's not like some sort of weird random name that we got on Alibaba or whatever. It's like we bought it I don't know. I think we got it on Amazon, and just did not want to talk to my computer and and I'm running Windows 10. It's like not a thing. And I'm like, why is this so hard? Anyway, 3D printers are not easy either. There's not just like I'm just going to put this in there and boop and hit a button and then get stuff out. It's a bit of a hobby in its own. So understand that when you start thinking about like, I'm going to buy a 3D printer and print out a whole bunch of cool like 3D terrain or something like that. It takes a bit of work, and you have to. Matt at Game 4 has gotten into it because he's been printing dungeon tiles and stuff like that for RPG stuff that he does. But yeah, Like he immediately, as soon as he got this printer, he immediately went on a line and watched a ton of videos and bought some extra parts so he could tweak things and this and that and the other thing. Got a different build plate, all that stuff. But he's doing good work now. But it takes time. So yeah, it's not just a slam dunk. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Laser Jazer, that's a pretty good name, says, "This is my first time painting while listening to the podcast live. Loving it so far." Well, good. Glad to hear it. Let me see here. New painting about a week in. I'm just painting for table appearance. I'm not that good. That's honestly the best way to go. I still, to this day, generally aim for tabletop. Tabletop quality. My tabletop quality has gotten better, but I've also been doing it for a long time. But yeah, definitely just... if you sit down and try to make all your gaming pieces look like display pieces, you're going to have a bad time. You want to start out and just try to get things done and try to make them look, the way you want them to look, but don't go crazy. Understand that this is a piece you're going to play games with. If you decide to start out and like, oh, hey, I'm not going to play any games, I'm just going to paint stuff for display because I want to win some awards, that's going to be a different row to hoe. So it's going to take a bunch more work and a lot more time. But starting out and figuring out how to get good at tabletop can also then, down the road, help it so that you can then, if you did want to go into display painting down the road, starting by painting for tabletop is a great base. It's a great starting area. Aaron says, "Yes, my nice brushes never see paint more than halfway up the bristles. Even halfway is scary sometimes." Yeah, no, that's true. It's all about not getting too much paint on your bristles. That's a big thing to help it so that your brushes last longer. Absolutely. You covered the problem with online video games very well in the "Why Video Games Suck So Much" video. I almost fell out of my chair the first time I watched it. I was hot. I was not happy about that at the time, actually. I think it happened to me, and then I went and filmed the video like right afterwards. So yeah, it was fresh in my mind. Does anyone else find the prep side of mini painting incredibly frustrating, especially with non-GW, non-multi-part figures, trying to prep a load of CMON minis currently and losing the will to live? I've not found too many CMON minis that I was really happy with the quality with, but then again, they're generally, I take that, Wrath of Kings was a cool mini or not game, and those minis were pretty nice. Like, they were well manufactured. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have a lot of mold lines, and there were some, but not many. And they were generally, like, not all bent and weird. But Dark Age, even though they were metal for the most part, maybe some were plastic, but most of them were metal. I liked the Wrath of Kings models better, honestly. So, but like the ones that come in the board games and stuff like they do are frequently kind of bendier plastic, and yeah, they're hard to prep in my opinion. So, let me see here. Yo, Uncle Adam, I've loads of minis that I want to paint, but I'm too busy with college and working. Any advice on how to squeeze it in? Just try to schedule some time. It doesn't even have to be every day, obviously. You've got a lot of things like work and school and family. Obviously, those things come first over your hobbies. But when you can spot that there's going to be some time available, that Saturday evening you've got time available. You don't have any exams this week. You don't have everything. The kids are in bed if you've got kids or whatever. Then what I do, and I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm not in school either. But generally, if I'm kind of busy and I'm trying to find some time to wedge in some hobby time, I actually put it in my calendar on my phone. Because what happens is that when you find yourself left with some free time, sometimes inertia just takes over and you're like, well, I'm just going to sit on the couch and just watch TV, or I'm just going to whatever. And then if my phone goes bring, bring, or whatever, and I look at it and go, oh, that's right. And then I go downstairs in the basement. Like I set myself an event, like a calendar event, and an alarm to remind me, oh, you were going to go paint. Remember, you had this time kind of set aside for that, and then you do that. Now, if something comes up with work, life, school, whatever, that's going to get in the way, and that's fine. This is something you're supposed to be able to do in your free time, but if you decide not to do anything in your free time except for sit and watch television or whatever, then that's going to take away from the thing you wanted to get done during your free time. So scheduling it like actually like as a calendar event on my phone and having an alarm go off and say, hey, that does help me at least kick my butt a bit into gear and make it happen. So Joshua says, would you ever consider a fan base meetup? I frequently have, some meetups like at small conventions or bigger conventions. Had a meetup at Gen Con this year. I had a meetup at Depticon. I don't know if I had a meetup at Nova. I think, well, with Nova, the top floor of the hotel that everything's in, that the convention center and stuff, is like a bar. So it's like a meetup every night where everyone just hangs out. So there's that. And then, of course, I've got my own little mini convention that I do in June, which is the Tabletop Minions Expo, which I don't have the dates for 2020, but I'll be getting them soon, hopefully. So, yeah, so it's a thing that happens on and off. Definitely. So let's see. People talking about prepping miniatures. Some people like it more than they like painting. Other people like the painting more than they like building and prepping. I can understand that. What do you personally consider tabletop hobby, and what things have you learned to do to save a lot of time without sacrificing much quality? It's hard to say what tabletop quality is. Like, there's not like a great way to just be like, oh, it's X or Y, it's Z. For me, it's generally like how much time am I spending a little bit. As far as the second part of your question, which is what things have you learned to do that save a lot of time without sacrificing much quality? For me, I have found that priming is super important. And obviously, like everyone, you should almost always try to prime your miniatures. I think it's important anyway. But priming with the right color can help a lot. So someone asked me a while back, they're like, oh, I've got these Death Guard minis, these Nurgle minis or whatever, and I need to paint them all up and stuff. What color do you think I should prime them in? And I think in their mind, they were thinking, should I do them white or should I do them black? You know what I mean? And I said, you should prime them in green, because then you're a step ahead. There are a lot of colored primers you can get now, and there are also a lot of things at automotive stores that you can use as primers. Like, I frequently, if I'm using a rattle can type spray can primer, I'm almost always using Crayons Camouflage spray paints. I've talked about them before. I've got a video about them that I've done about the Cryon line. It's like literally like the only review that I've ever done, and it's because I think they're awesome. So the camouflage colors come in, there's just 6 colors. There's black, there's a dark brown, there's 2 shades of tan, and 2 shades of like a military type olive green. And I use those for primer all the time. And the benefit, like, so let's say we're going to paint, I don't know, Blood Angels. So I would either prime them in black with the Krylon and then spray them with a red spray paint from above, or I would go with the brown Krylon and then spray them with a red spray paint from above. Now, doing that saves you, this is the steps that just doing that does. It saves you priming, base coating, and highlighting. When you spray a color on there that's a colored primer and then highlight it from above, you're spraying, here's a model. So you got yourself a model, and you are painting it from all angles. You take it outside and you rattle can, you spray it from above, you wait for it to dry like 10 minutes, knock it over onto his back, spray up towards his belly and all that stuff, and then you wait for that to dry, flip him over onto his tummy, spray upside the back. So then you've caught that primer color everywhere, up underneath and everything and all that stuff. Wait for that to dry a bit more. Then take your second color, which is your highlight color, and spritz it just from above. So it lands on the higher parts, and then it doesn't get underneath, inside, and those parts become shadow that you're painting in. So now you come in the house later on, or apartment or whatever, and you've got yourself a model that has been highlighted, base coated, and primed. And you just basically use 2 rattle cans and spend some time, and then you're that far ahead. Then you can start doing some washes, some dry brush, paint up some details, boom, you're done. So finding efficiencies like that, where you can just be like, I'm going to throw a little bit of this stuff, a little bit of thought process into the beginning. If you start out and you're like, okay, I'm going to spray everything black, and then I'm doing ultramarines, and now I have to paint everything with a brush blue, I would tell you to go try to find some blue primer. I would also tell you to think about getting an airbrush. If you're going to get serious about painting hobby, airbrush is great because you can get You can prime if it's raining. You can prime if it's too humid, prime if it's too hot, too cold, whatever. You can also highlight very easily. There's all these cool things you can do very quickly that will make it so that you can speed things up and get stuff on the table quicker. That's basically part of it right there. I generally think that it's best to try to do the predominant color of the model and get all that figured out, get it all washed, get it all dry brushed, and then start picking out the details. So let's say you've got a bunch of shirtless barbarians. Paint them all up to the skin tone that you want, and then throw a wash on there, then go back and dry brush and do all that stuff. And do dry brushing, go crazy with it. Like use a big cheap makeup brush, but go nuts with it, and you're gonna get, dry brush color in their hair and on their loincloth and on their sword, and that's fine because you're gonna paint all those details second. But do the biggest area first and do it fast, and then go back and touch up all the details and clean all that stuff up. And then, because if you start first and you're like, I got this barbarian, I'm gonna paint his sword first. Well, now you got to paint all the skin, and then you have to make sure you don't get skin color on the sword. You always want to paint from the inside out, meaning, like, if I was a model, if I was a miniature, so I've got, I would paint the skin color on me first, and then paint the t-shirt color, and then paint the hoodie color. And the reason for that is, as I'm painting my skin, my brush here is going to get paint on the t-shirt. But that's okay because I'm painting the t-shirt next. Because the t-shirt's raised, it's easier for me to paint along the edge and not get paint here. Whereas if I painted the t-shirt first, when I started painting the skin color is going to be touching and get onto the t-shirt. And then as we go on to this part as well. If I paint the skin first, then paint the t-shirt, any skin color that got on the t-shirt, I'm covering up. And then any t-shirt color that I got on the hoodie, when I paint the hoodie, it's like a little cliff over here where the brush doesn't have to touch down here. And then it's a fast way to work, and it helps fix any errors that it heads them off of the past is what it does. There you go. There's your answer. So I hope that was too much. VJ Morpha asks, are barbarians allergic to t-shirts? Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Pokey Cactus says, caught this on the tail end. Guessing you don't like creepers. I don't like creepers. That's true. Oh, hey, the camera locked up. That is the first time that happened so far. Oh, and it just came back as I was unplugging it. Son of a gun. All right. And we're back. All right, cool. My problem with Minecraft is that I play too much Minecraft lately, and because it's creative and it's fun, and it's been taking away from my hobby time. So that's a quick recap on that. How about paint plus primer cans? Any colors other than black, gray, and green work? Oh yeah, I mean, there's tons of the Army Painter. They're a company that makes lots of different full color. They've got a full color line of different primer cans. Games Workshop's got a bunch of different colors of primer now. Vallejo does now as well. There are certain colors you can get. Like I talked at the beginning of the show about when I first painted my Tau. I went to the automotive store and I bought a sandable auto primer, and it came in a red oxide. So there's not a lot of colors at the auto parts store necessarily. You've got a bunch of grays and a bunch of blacks and a bunch of whites, but there are also sometimes fun colors like red oxide. I don't know why. It must be some sort of automotive thing. But the red oxide is what I primed those Tau in, and then that was now their priming and their base coat color. And then I took a can of this orange paint and sprayed them from above lightly, dusted it down, and then it made a highlight. The thing is about highlighting red is you don't want to highlight it with white because it turns sort of pink. So you highlight red frequently either with an orange or maybe yellow sometimes, but normally orange. So yeah, spritz them from above with a bit of orange, and then it makes it looks like there's light hitting them on the top of their head, top of their big shoulder pad, top of their gun or whatever, all that kind of stuff. Works out pretty well. Let's see here. 01 Horns fan says, I know you've touched on this before, but I'm often struck by how much discipline a hobby requires. It seems something meant to be fun shouldn't be so obligatory. Well, so I watched a video recently where a guy was talking about laziness. And his belief, and I agree, is that it's not that you're lazy. It's that you don't want to do it. So, like, I am completely lazy about yard work. I'm also lazy. I'm lazy about a lot of stuff. I'm lazy about cleaning my basement. But it's because I don't want to do it. Stuff that I want to do, I spend lots of time doing because I want to do it. So sometimes you have to train yourself as well. Like, I'm lazy about working out. But I'm not lazy about making videos. I used to be. When I first started, I would make a video, and then it would be 2 weeks between videos, and then 3 weeks between videos, and then maybe a week between videos, and then it would be 4 weeks between videos. And I was all over the board. And then around 2015, I decided, I read an article that said that consistency is key as far as YouTube is concerned, and it's important to put out a video and put them out at the same time. Maybe it's every 2 weeks, and it's always on Thursday, and it's at noon, or whatever. But doing it at the exact same time, the exact same day, makes YouTube go, oh, this person's serious about this, and then it helps the algorithm or whatever. So I started making a video every Friday. And coming up at the end of this month, it'll be 4 years of making a video every single Friday. And I haven't missed a single one. And that is it becomes a habit. So, but you kind of have to force yourself to make it into a habit. And then once you've made it into a habit, then you're like, I can't imagine not doing it. Like, one of the reasons that this bit of a Minecraft detour is annoying me is because I have made the hobby enough of a habit that when I am not doing it, it makes me kind of feel weird, and I'm like, well, that's not what I should be doing. Now, if you don't want them to be a habit and you just kind of want to flow from thing to thing, that's great. But then, the problem that I also have is that then people will be like, it sucks. I hate this hobby because it's so hard because I don't ever get anything done. And you're like, yeah, but that's because you also don't do anything. You bought a bunch of stuff, and that's cool. But then you're watching TV, you're watching Game of Thrones, you're watching, you're playing video games or whatever. Things don't get done when you don't do them. So, it sounds harsh, but if it is an obligation and you just hate doing it, then it's probably not a hobby for you. You know what I mean? Like, I still hate doing the laundry I'm fine with, but doing the lawn work, not a big fan. So I should probably pay somebody to actually do it. I just have also been lazy about that. So yeah, if it is something like, the reason that I tell people to like spend the time, schedule the time on their phone, that kind of stuff, is because as you start to enjoy it more and you get better at it, and you do it more, it becomes a habit. And then you just are more interested in doing it and keep doing it. And you also find yourself enjoying it more. There are certain things that we all enjoy doing that we're not lazy about doing. There are a lot of people out there who are like, ugh, I just got to play so many video games today, or I got to watch so much TV today, or I got to whatever. But, I got to eat so much today. That's not, you're not lazy about video games frequently, or lazy about eating too much or whatever. It's the stuff that gives you the benefit that is kind of hard to get used to. But like, from what I've been told, when you become very fit, it becomes a habit. You can't imagine, like, there are people out there that are like, I didn't run yesterday and it made me feel weird all day. Like, not like a physical thing, but more of a mental thing. I don't have that problem, Lord knows. But it's a situation where, like, yeah, you kind of need to train yourself, and it may come to the point where you realize this is not for me, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I would tell you to try to find some sort of hobby where you get to be creative and work with your hands, because I think overall, and I've said this a bunch of times, I think a hobby that you work with your hands and you get to be creative with is meditative, stress relieving, that kind of stuff. And I think that more people need that. Most video games I find to not be super stress relieving. Your mileage may vary, certainly. But I find like multiplayer games, that's one of the reasons I kind of have a tendency to stay away from multiplayer games, because they make me, like, I get angry about, like, something, I lost that game or whatever. I'm just not a very competitive person, but when you start playing video games, it's very easy to become a competitive person and then be annoyed when you're not good at it. The people who are very good at competitive video games also have to play them a bunch. At that point, it probably does become a bit of a chore. Like, if you're like an esports person, you have to play 12 hours a day for practice, But on the other hand, if you love it that much, then you're not lazy about it. So yeah, it was an interesting video I watched. It was this guy named Gary V. It's spelled V-E-E. His last name is actually Vaynerchuk, but he goes by V because it's easier. And I've watched his videos for years. And he did a video recently talking about laziness, and I thought it was really interesting. I've been thinking about making a video about it actually myself and how it relates to wargaming. So there's that. Let's see. Where else are we at here? Red oxide is a very thinned down glaze. Well, this was I suppose, maybe. This was again, like a rattle can I got from the auto parts store, so. Just about anything worth doing requires a degree of discipline. Yeah, it's true. I think that is true, definitely. Like buying a treadmill and using it to hang your clothes on it. That's also true. I don't have a treadmill. I have an elliptical, and there are currently no clothes on it. But I'm also not using it as much as I ought. Let me see here. I love watching shows or even YouTube videos while painting and assembling. See, I can't do that. I love listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks when I'm building and assembling and painting and all that stuff, but I can't have a visual, like this show particularly, where it's mainly just me yammering at you. I could probably have this on my phone and just not be watching the screen and be listening to it like a podcast, and that would be fine. I mean, I wouldn't do that now because it's me talking and I already know what I said. But, somebody else. I've watched other stuff or I've listened to other stuff like that. But, like, somebody like, what's his name? Kenny Boucher, from The Long War? Or is he just from his own channel? Anyway, like, when he's sitting and painting, then I'm watching, so I can't, like, be doing my own modeling at the same time. I can't be doing my own hobby stuff at the same time. And I've watched him, like he's talking the entire time, but I couldn't just like have it on the background because I would stop painting. So even like Netflix, I've seen people say, oh, well, I just turn on Netflix to some show I've watched a million times and they just have it on as background noise. I'm not a background noise guy. It's interesting. Like my mom is, she's not a guy, but she's a background noise person. Like she's always got to have the TV on. If there's not like a TV or a radio or something on, she does not like silence. My wife and I are fine with silence. It's not that we're against having the television on for if we're watching it, but it's not just on. You know what I mean? Like we don't need that kind of background noise. We can sit and read and whatever, and not even have music on it. It's totally fine. And I'm glad for that. But when I'm painting and modeling and building and doing all that stuff, I always am listening to something. I'm always listening to an audiobook or a podcast. So I feel like I'm multitasking, like somebody said in the chat. I think multitasking is important, and it helps. But I can't visually multitask. I'm not good at it. I'm focused on one thing too much. So, Dylan Scott says, every time I watch these videos, I want to go and paint. Well, you should. I think it's a good idea, and I hope that I hope it eventually helps you to do that. VJ Morph says, yep, I can testify that running every day can become addictive. Yeah, I walk, not every day. I used to walk every day. I don't walk as much as I used to, but I try to walk. But running for me is, I've just never, I'd honestly rather elliptical, personally, just because I can do it in the house, and then, there's that too. Phoenix Productions says, I bought some stuff to start my own miniatures. I'm interested in the concept of sculpting, but I don't know that I would be good at it. I have a suspicion that I would be better at it digitally because of Control-Z. Like, I was talking about drawing earlier. If I was ever to get back into drawing, it would be completely digital because I could be like, nope, and then just Control-Z, 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 and back up 3 steps, and then try that again. Drawing on paper and then like goofing up and having to erase, I'm not interested in that anymore. So the drawing that I do from time to time, it's all digital. So that's why I would sculpt digitally too. Stevie says, that's exactly what I'm doing now in relation to listening to the thing and then and then hobbying. Building a Dungeon Master screen for my next D&D campaign. Cool, that sounds fun. Orange Crowbar Man says, Uncle, I have a problem with storage space. Any recommendations for stowage of models that's cheap and doesn't beat them up too bad and isn't foam? That isn't foam. That's a tough one. I do most of my storage with foam. I mostly, the 2 brands that I use the most, for the most part, are Battle Foam. I like their stuff quite a bit. And I do also enjoy the Games Workshop foam cases where they have that weird zigzaggy foam. I've been liking that because you can kind of like sometimes put like a fat thing in here and spread them apart and then have skinny things over here. And it works out well for me. But I'm a big fan of foam. Another potential idea, if you're not interested in foam, is to use magnets. So you can glue some magnets into the base, on the underside. Again, with this model. So like there's usually like an indent in here you can kind of see. So you could glue a magnet, or sometimes multiple magnets, those like rare earths or like really strong magnets in here, and then put them on. I've seen people take like those plastic tubs that you keep underneath your bed that are relatively short, and then put like a tin sheet and like hot glue a tin sheet or something in the bottom, and then you can stick your magnetized models in there. Or you could use like a metal toolbox and just stick them to the side of the metal toolbox, stuff like that. There are also, if you do want to get fancy, there are companies now out there. Battle Foam's one of them. Table War's another one. A-Case from Poland, I think, is another one, where they have like little metal trays that go inside of a case that you can then put your magnetized models on. Magnetizing is really, really good for models that are very spindly. Let's say you play Sylvaneth for Age of Sigmar. They don't go into foam very well. They're the tree people, and they're all branchy and whatnot. So yeah, in that situation, then it's a good idea to try to magnetize. A guy that I play against, a friend of mine, he has a Sylvaneth army, and his are all magnetized so that he's not trying to constantly put them in and pull them out of foam, because they catch on the foam and then they rip off little leaves and crap like that. So this way they're not touching anything except the base is magnetized to the ground, and then they're completely, Now I would not drop that case. Like I can drop a foam case and be generally okay with it, not too far, but I could still drop it. You'd still need to be careful with magnetized stuff, but you won't have to worry about the foam catching on your spindly kind of delicate models. So that's one option. I have seen people use egg crates before. You can do that too. Sam used to bring egg crates full of orcs to games when we used to play 40K back when he still played 40K. So yeah, no, that's fine. How do you feel about using models from other companies as proxies in something like 40K? If your opponent's fine with it, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all. As long as it looks like the thing, or it's close and you can be like, this is this. Yeah, I don't have a problem with proxies. Certain tournaments don't like it, so you got to, pay attention to that kind of stuff if you're playing tournaments. But for normal games, playing against people and stuff like that, I don't have a problem with proxies at all. Now, I'm not a fan of, hey, I'm going to 3D print a bunch of stuff that are basically just scans of somebody else's intellectual property. If you're like, oh, I'm going to be bringing a bunch of 3D printed dreadnoughts, that I'm not particularly cool with because it's piracy, basically. But if you're like, I bought these models from this company that look more like what I would like my Sisters of Battle to look like, or what I would like my Imperial Guard to look like, or whatever, and these are these, and this is a plasma guy, and this is the guy with the power fist, or whatever, and I'll be like, yeah, that's cool. I got no problem with that. Any tips on increasing the amount of minis you can batch paint? I'm working on my 31st and 32nd NID squad, and it hurts to know that there are 13 more squads in my basement. Yeah, that's a tough one. I honestly, I think my max for batch painting is probably 10. For those of you that don't know, batch painting is when and it's the way you should paint most of the time, in my opinion. If you have a bunch of models that all kind of look the same, like they're all part of a military outfit of some sort, or they're all skeletons, or they're all lizard people, or whatever, and they all kind of need to look, or goat people, then what you do, in my opinion, and I did a video about this a while back, about you go to the hardware store and you get those wooden sticks that you stir the paint with, for your house painting and stuff like that. They're about yay long. And I stick them to that. So I use poster putty and I stick 5 guys, let's say, onto each of those sticks. Maybe 4, depends. Depends on how big they are. And then when it's time to start painting, you start with the first guy. You're like, all right, well, you've already primed them and all that jazz and all that stuff, and you've got all that. You've got maybe even your highlights and your base coat's all done because you sprayed with rattle can or your airbrush or whatever you did. So now it's time to do the wash on the skin tone. Great. So you do that. Wash, 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 wash. Do the next guy. Wash, 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 wash. And you can just go assembly line down that first stick. Set the stick over there to dry. Pick up the next stick. Wash, 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 wash. You go through that. maybe you can do 3 sticks of 4. Maybe you can do 12 guys all at once before you go kind of a little nuts doing it. But you do everything, and by the time you get done with that 3rd stick, the first stick should probably dry. With washes, maybe not, because washes can take longer to dry. But for normal paints, it's a different story. So you've got all that done. Now it's time to dry brush. So now you dry brush, dry brush, dry brush, and then you're not... Like, if you just work on one guy at a time, you have to do the wash on that one guy, and then wait for that to dry, and then do dry brush, and then that's mostly dry pretty quick. And then you get that first guy done, cool. Now I have to do the second guy, and you're constantly switching back and forth. The efficiencies that you gain by dry brush, dry brush, dry brush, dry brush, and working down that line is by the time you get done with the first one, or the last one, the first one's dry again. So now you can be like, okay, now I have to start painting their swords. So you get your silver paint ready, you get all your stuff, and then you're like sword, 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 and you just keep working down there. You can crank through stuff quickly. Don't ever, if you can help it, paint one model at a time. Even if you have to paint, like in certain games, like they don't match. You know, like Malifaux, they rarely ever dress the same. You know, like you may have an entire crew of like 6 or 7 or 8 folks in a Malifaux crew, but they're not dressed the same. Totally fine. Still paint them in some sort of a, you know, you get like, okay, this guy, I'm going to paint boots. Boots, okay. This person's not wearing any boots, so I'm going to paint. And if you can figure out a way to get that boot color to also be something that you can use on this person's sleeve color or whatever, then that kind of saves you time too. But you work model, 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 because by the time you get done with the last one of the 6 or 8, the first one's dry, so you can do the next thing again. Even if you're not using the same color over and over again, you're still working back and forth, and you're just constantly rotating through like that. And it makes a lot of sense. It saves you a bunch of time. But I would tell you, like, I know I wouldn't want to do 20 at once. You know what I mean? That's for sure. Let's see. What else have we got? Magnetized stuff is often quite heavy. Yeah, that's very true. Egg crates of orcs. Yeah, no, it works, man. It worked. Renard says that I hot glue a sheet of metal to a cookie tray. Aren't cookie trays already metal? Maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. But yeah, that works out well. VJ Morph says, personally, I batch paint in 5s. I did initially as well, but I've been able to spread it out a little bit more. With all the Stormtroopers I did, they're all squads of 7, so that was actually kind of perfect. It worked out real nice. For brush paint metallics, do you prefer Citadel or Vallejo model color, one over the other for tabletop beginner level painting? I generally prefer Vallejo metallics. Citadel metallics, if you have to dry brush, are maybe a little nicer. Like if you have like a lot of chainmail, then you have to dry brush, great. Or you've got, like when I did my orc, my Iron Skulls boys for Shadespire, I wanted their armor to be black, but scraped up so you could see the metal underneath. So I painted all the armor black, and then I used a silver dry brush to make the scrapes, basically. I think that GW's metallics work well for dry brushing, because they're kind of a bit thicker and tackier. But for trying to paint and not have too many like brush stroke lines and stuff like that, I'm generally more of a Vallejo fan because they're more fluid. Specifically, my favorite Vallejo metallic is actually not even one of their regular model colors. It's a model air color. So it's designed for airbrush, but I still brush it on with a brush. And it is chrome. So it's model air metallic chrome, and it is so amazing. It is a really bright silver. You paint it on, it's really, really flowing. It works very well. It's also one coat done. It is incredibly opaque, and I love it. It's my favorite. So yeah, Vallejo model air metallic chrome is my favorite right there. Aaron says, greetings from Janesville, Wisconsin. My issue is burnout. Last year for Adepticon, I built the Canis Rex kit, paint and magnetize in 3 prior. Didn't build or paint for a month after. Yeah, there are times when you can go real hard in the paint, as it were, and that can wear you out for a while. what I have a tendency to do is then generally switch from like if I've been painting and I had a whole bunch of painting I had to get done and I got it done and now I am sort of tuckered out from painting, then I like to switch over to starting to do some building, which makes kind of sense anyway because you've painted this stuff and you got to probably build something new to paint next anyway. Switching gears like that, I think, for me, it helps because I can be like, well, at least I'm not painting. You know what I mean? I can put the wet palette away for a bit and just be gluing and snipping and all that jazz and sanding and get all that done. Let's see here. Pokey Cactus says, I did my orcs in batch paints of 30. Just wanted to get them done. Very happy with them. I switched up where that color brown was on each to make them look special. Yeah, I mean, that's being able to do that is also pretty helpful, I think, as well. Aren't Vallejo Metallics alcohol-based? There is a line of Vallejo Metallics that come in bigger bottles that are alcohol-based, but the airbrush... the Model Air Metallics are not alcohol-based. They're water-based. That's what I use. But they do have, I think they do make some alcohol-based ones as well, but I've not used those. Adron says that frustratingly, the chrome is one of the hardest to get in the UK. Oh, that's a bummer. It's an amazing paint. I love it. Eric Olson says, thanks. I have an old box of dwarves needing paint from the Battle of Skull Pass, so lots of chainmail. Yeah, I would definitely... if I'm dry brushing for metallics, then I like Citadel more. Plus, also, you can just dip it in the pot and then wipe it off on your paper towel and then go to town. Whereas with anything in a dropper bottle, then I have to dropper it onto some piece of plastic. And then sometimes it's a bit too fluid for dry brushing, so I have to let it sit out for a little bit to kind of thicken up a little bit, and then dab, and then wipe it off, and then dry brush. It's kind of a pain. So, yeah. VJ Morph says, I actually think I like building more than painting. That's fair. I mean, there are people that prefer... Like, there's a guy that I know who lives down the block from me who has never painted, but he loves to build and convert, and then I don't know what he does with the stuff. Like, he does it, and he's like, hey, this is cool, but then he never paints it. So, yeah. Hey, I just found a guy I gotta get rid of here, and boom. There we go. So yeah, let's see here. What else? I like terrain as a break from painting. Plus, it feels like more creative and inspiring, says B Longo. Not El Bongo, but B Longo. Yeah, definitely. So I think that that's important as well. I think that being able to switch gears like that helps you also. Anyway, it's 11 o'clock my time. Actually, 11:01. I've been talking a little bit too long. So I want to thank everybody for showing up and coming by. I hope that that you understood what I was talking about with Minecraft. I think it's a fine game. Don't get me wrong, but it has been slowing down my hobby lately because it allows me to be creative and still play a video game. But yeah, so that's how that goes. Anyway, I'll be back in 2 weeks. So next weekend, I'll be at Dragonfall in Northern Illinois, Elmhurst, Illinois. It's a miniatures convention, mostly. Smallish, but that's where I'll be. Moderator Matt will be there as well. We'll be having fun. So hopefully maybe if you live in the Illinois area and you're coming to that, we'll see you there. And then I'll be back for a normal every other Sunday show 2 weeks from today, and we'll see you then. And I'll have probably this upcoming Sunday, instead of this show, I'll probably have another video, actually. I've been doing that. I did that with Sam's video last week, where it showed up at the 9 o'clock hour on Sunday morning, and so they did that, and it worked out well. So I'm going to do that, I think, with some other videos instead of doing the Monday thing that I tried to do earlier in the year. So you'll probably see another video from Sam with his scary monster tree creature a week from today. So that'll be fun to watch, hopefully, if you're into that kind of thing. And anyway, that's pretty much it. So don't forget, still, shirts, boop, 10% off. Use code MINIONS at checkout, and it goes till midnight tonight, my time, which is about 13 hours from now. So you still got some time. Get yourself a I Want to Pachow poster or shirt or any of the other stuff that's in the store, and it helps to support the channel, and I hope that you enjoy it. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.